Alrighty. Ooh, hold on, I need to turn that off. There we go. Now I can't hear myself. All right. So we are making do while I am on the road. Welcome to another episode of Lore Equals Gameplay. This is going to be episode 10. And currently, I'm in my hotel room in San Antonio, Texas. Yeah, living that hotel life. Do me a favor, if you guys, I have um, a lag set up between my cam and my microphone, so that way they should be in sync. So let me know if it looks like the words coming out of my mouth are out of sync with my lips. Um, about 4 seconds off. Let's see. And remove that. All right. Now, what about that? How does that sound and look to you? I'd had that artificial buffer put in there when I was using this laptop, an OBS set up on this laptop as my stream PC, coming off my gaming PC back home, and I'm not using it for that, so I don't need that buffer. But I was like, I don't know if I need it or not. Yeah, San Antonio. I'm currently on active duty orders. Oh, congrats, Axis, on the successful stream, building up the views and the followers and everything. But yeah, I'm in San Antonio right now on active duty orders for a critical care course. If you're not aware, my Army job is let's see, my center. There we go. My Army job is I'm a flight paramedic in the National Guard up in Idaho, where I live. And so yeah, I'm down here for that training. I'll have to go away for another month in July, August as well. This course is pretty chill, just Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, mostly class. It's like 3-4 weeks of class and simulation training, and like 3 or 4 weeks of in hospital rotations. So ICU, operating room, ED, as well as some ride outs. So I mean, it's a good refresher for me. I've been doing this long enough on the civilian side as a civilian flight paramedic that I basically teach all these subjects, so it's not particularly challenging. Um, so like I've done my studying for the week today, and I was like, hey, you know what, I'm gonna see if I can actually stream with this hotel internet, because I have the upgraded internet. And so far, it looks like now that we're actually streaming, um, the looks like the kilobits are doing okay. They're in the green, and my drop frames are pretty negligible. I think that was only at the very beginning. So I think we're doing pretty good. The question is, will be if I try to play any games or do anything like that. So we'll try that out maybe later on next week or something, because there's some co-op games and top-down shooters I want to play. Yeah, they definitely. Well, and so the other thing is the upload speed on the hotel internet is a lot better than on my 5G on my phone for my hotspot. But the hotspot, the download speed is like 5 to 10 times better than the download speed um, on the hotel internet. And so I've been switching back and forth depending on what I'm doing. But I had a lot of fun on Friday night playing Deep Rock Galactic with Astropub and Loken. And I forget who the other person from Loken's Discord was, but that was a really good time. Paul's going to be doing that. I forget what he's calling. He and Loken are calling them on Fridays, but I'm hoping to join him some more in the future. And I've been throwing some suggestions for games to try his way. But yeah, so before we get started on Lore Equals Gameplay, Nazareth and I are planning on doing, this is sort of a test stream. That's why part of the reason I'm doing this, also to catch up on the lore. But we're planning on, now that this seems to be working, we are planning on doing Pathfinders episode 40. Yeah, episode 40 tomorrow night, tomorrow evening. Same bat time, same bat channel. And as long as everything's good on Nazar's end, he's been pretty busy, so I'll be checking in with him tomorrow and make sure. And if we don't do it tomorrow, we'll do it Tuesday, something like that. But we're going to cover the roadmap roundup from last Wednesday, as well as the Shiny Tracker reports. And there's some good information in there, as well as Nazareth is working on a scanner anomaly on science gameplay. What we know and what sort of expectations we can set, what sort of things we can predict, and we're going to talk about a few other games that have science sort of gameplay and maybe what CIG could incorporate on that side of the house. So stay tuned for that. And I was on Captain's Table yesterday with Atira Kell and Paul, of course. Had a really good time talking about how well CIG. Just watch the kilobits drop and dropped a few frames and back up. See, it's that hotel internet. It's not really reliable. Like it'll slow down intermittently here and there. But so far so good. But yeah, Tira Kell and Paul and I were talking about how well does Star Citizen respect your time, both in terms of design, and implementation, and what CIG can do in the future. But yeah, it was always a good time hanging out with Paul. And Atira Kell and Night Cobb are trying to figure out our schedules so we can do the next episode of Armchair Admirals and Generals while I'm down here, since this seems to be working. I'm hoping next Saturday, if not next Saturday, the following weekend. I'll let you know. Stay tuned in my Discord. I'll also update on Twitter when we get that nailed down. But for that episode, we're going to be talking about like the episode is titled "The Thrill of the Hunt," and so that one is we were talking about this, and so Night Cobb is a career enlisted sailor on submarines, and so obviously submarines are good at staying hidden, and observing, and striking, when it's when it's opportune for them. And so we're going to sort of use that sort of real life influence to talk about how pirates would be, what pirates can do to be successful in terms of, staying hidden from bounty hunters, from law enforcement, from the military, and biding their time, setting up, positioning themselves appropriately in order to, detect, prey, and be in an advantageous position to attack their prey without getting attacked themselves. And then the yang of that would be that Atira Kell is a intel officer with the army, and so we're going to talk about how bounty hunters and mercenaries can go about gathering intel in Star Citizen, and what they can do, how they can use that intel and the information they can gather, in order to predict enemy movements and narrow down their search patterns in order to find their quarry, which would be pirates and ne'er-do-wells. So that's the plan for that episode. We've got some good questions and back and forth going, so I'm looking forward to doing that with those guys. It's been a little bit too long, and it's always a good time. But yeah, so let's transition over to the other screen, and we'll get started with lore equals gameplay. And this is going to be challenging for me because normally I have OBS on the screen to my right on my other computer, or on my desktop computer, and then I'm using my main screen for looking at everything. And so I'm going to transition to the other screen on OBS, and we'll be looking at it together. And hopefully everything on OBS is looking good, because I won't be able to see it. Actually, what I should do here, give me 1 second. I'm going to. Where is it? I don't know why I didn't do this before. I have my tablet. So I can turn on my tablet and pull up my Twitch stream, and that way I can type on my tablet and respond to you guys if need be. Why did you do that? There we go. Said make it bigger. Uh-huh. Okay, so it works. Ah, sweet. All right, we are ready. Now let's go ahead and switch screens. I think that sound got all jacked up when I did it. I'm not sure. Did the transition sound all right? It sounds weird coming through my headphones because it has things get all rerouted all weird. Like, I apologize for the audio quality because I have this laptop gets hot. Why is it not showing? How dare you? That is not what I want. That is not what I told you to do. Try this again. I don't know why whenever I do a window capture, really? Really? It's right there. Let's see. Window capture. That's why I hate using the window capture part, because it like always gets screwed up. Why are you not detecting the right window? It was just working before we started this. Why are you... Yeah, travel with your whole home setup. Yeah, with both desktops, all three screens. Yeah, oh gosh. Let's see. I was literally just going back and forth right before I clicked start stream, and then now it doesn't want to show up the damn browser. All right, let's see. Here, what we'll do, maybe if I close that window and open it again. All right, and we want February 23. All right, try this again. Really? You're gonna make me do a screen capture? All right, let's resize this. Order, move to bottom. Let's see. Appreciate you guys being patient while I get this arranged. There we go. That should do it. And all right, let's move it over. It's a little bit cut off because it's actually like a 4K screen on my laptop. It's gonna be a little cut off on the bottom, but that's okay. All right, and hooray. Okay, cool. I can see on the tablet that everything is visually there. And if you guys will let me know in chat if for some reason the audio, just for no apparent reason whatsoever, decided to die. Okay, cool. Okay, so and let's see if the star map actually works. Come on, you know you can do it. You can do it. I believe in you. There we are. Oh, this poor laptop is just chugging, but it's to be expected because it's a laptop. But it's got like it's got an i7 in it, like I think it's 11th or 12th gen i7 and 16 gigs of DDR4, I want to say, and a 3050, but it's all the mobile stuff, so you know how that goes. All right, so let's get into the February Galactapedia update. And so I always like to read these because they are a lot more informative than people seem to think that they are. And there's a lot of information that gets put into them that is very informative towards gameplay. I did a segment on Pathfinders, a few weeks ago, a month or so ago, when we were doing the underground facilities. Because the underground facilities are frequently mentioned in many locations within the Galactapedia updates. And they've been adding those updates over the last year or so and given some change with those specific mentions of underground facilities. And that's why when they first showed them off to us at CitizenCon last year, I just got super excited. I was like, they've been talking about this a lot, in the Galactapedia updates, and here it is. So let's take a look at the articles in this February Galactapedia update. The full-length article is about SPOP, which is SPOP is a type of music within the Star Citizen universe. So let's go ahead and open up that article, and then we'll get to the rest of them. So SPOP, and it's interesting that they include this sort of information. I don't know how it will influence gameplay at all, other than like types of background music that you hear within the game. But I think it's interesting that they put it in. It's I'm looking forward to seeing what other music types we get in game, because there is a lot of different mentions in the lore of different types of. Gosh, I can't remember the name of. There's like a gutter rock or something like that. It was another one really interesting, the way they talk about it. So S-pop is an abbreviation of Sci pop, and is a form of human popular music originating on Sci, which is Centauri 3. And Centauri is right next to the Elysium system, where the Tavaran are originally from. So, common characteristics of S-pop include the incorporation of relaxing organic source sounds and traditional Sci instruments. The term can refer either specifically to the popular music of Sci or to any music functionally derived therefrom. Uh, Origin. The earliest iteration of traditional Sci music evolved in the 25th century, when Sci was first established and built up as a colony world. The form owes a significant amount to the slow, methodical process involved in planning and constructing the Sci colony. While typical colonies grow in fits as interest in particular exports drive commerce and immigration, Sci was instead built up deliberately according to a long-term plan. Lacking the booms and busts of traditional early colonial development that leave newly settled worlds more closely tied to a home culture, Sci developed its own disparate takes on a variety of human art forms. During the initial settlement period, luxury exports from Earth, Sol 3, were extremely limited. As a result, traditional human instruments were uncommon beyond those carried as part of the first wave's personal preference kits. Colonists turned to local materials to develop their own offshoots. Trees seeded during the early terraforming process produced softer wood than is traditionally used to create stringed instruments. This limitation ultimately gave rise to the Sci made softwood guitar, or S guitar, which produces a mellower, more resonant sound than its earth made equivalent. Oh, that's really interesting. Hydrate. Everyone stay hydrated. Sci musicians soon began experimenting with natural sounds. By the middle of the 27th century, a typical Sci arrangement might include several dozen different natural samples, often arrayed so elaborately that their source could not be externally determined. Widespread popularity. For roughly 400 years, Sci traditional music was not widespread throughout beyond the Centauri system. This changed in 2932, so quite recently. So we're looking at 20 years ago, or no, sorry, it's 29. We're 29. Wait, yeah, we're 2953 now, so it's 21 years. Yeah, okay. When the Sci-based band The Claw appeared on Terra, Show Me the Music, a popular Spectrum-based showcase for aspiring bands. Oh, there's a link to it too. Instead of performing an original song, The Claw chose to perform a Sci-styled interpretation of Clover's Moonlight, then at the height of its popularity. The group used a traditional S guitar and an array of cultivated aquatic insect sounds to give the song what the series host termed eerie still movement. The performance was accompanied by a holographic light show based in traditional Sci culture. In under 2 weeks, The Claw had the #1 single on popular music charts of both Earth and Terra. Viewers initially curious about the light show and the unusual sounds became interested in the music itself. The Terra Gazette dubbed this style of music S-pop. A brief S-pop craze followed the Claw's larger UE debut, with music producers rushing to sign hitherto unknown acts from Sci and other performers around the galaxy, eager to emulate what they considered an exciting new discovery. S-pop ruled Spectrum from November 2932 to December 2934, with dozens of songs taking top positions. Although interest in S-pop has waxed and waned in the ensuing years, the impact of the fad has had permanence. And the question is, what will that permanence entail? So let's get into the short articles, and the short articles are usually based around locations that we look at on the Ark Starmap, as well as notable groups and or organizations and different people, as well as now they're introducing a lot of different flora and fauna as well. So the Tyrannus system. So before we open up the article, let's find the Tyrannus system on the star map. And Tyrannus. We'll zoom out. Why are you not letting me? Oh, star map, you are going slow. Oh man, star map slowness, so good. That's weird. Aha, there we go. That's weird that it. All right, there we go. Okay, so there's the Tyrannus system. It is a unclaimed system, and it looks like we've got no large jump points, and so we've got medium jump points between from Tyrannus to Helios, Genesis, and Ellis. Ellis being U and Helios being UE systems, and then Genesis being a developing system. And then one small jump point going to Terra itself. Okay. And then, so let's right click on the Tyrannus system. And right click. Really? Why are you not going into it? Okay, so let's me go in. I just want to right click on the dang thing so I can see how many AU the Tyrannus system is. We'll try this one more time. While it's loading up, what we'll do. All right, so, okay. So Terra is over here. There's Tyrannus. Why are you not letting me right click or click on Tyrannus? What the heck is wrong with you? I mean, I get that it's lagging because my computer is not fast. Oh well. So what I like to try and do is when I find the system and we navigate to it in reference to the rest of the star map, I right click on it because that'll show you the AU. And I do that. Oh boy, it looks like we are dropping a lot of frames. I'm looking at it on my tablet. Maybe not, just lagging? I'm not sure. OBS is struggling. Yeah, I like to do that because I like to look at the size of the system, because the star map has been continuously updated over the years, and it's important to notate how big star systems are, and because those things have changed, and you can get sort of an idea for how far away planetary bodies are from each other. When you're moving, when you're exploring the star system, and then yeah, I don't. That's the thing is so SC tools. Let's go ahead. SC tools wiki. Since the star map isn't letting me do it, hopefully it's up to date. But one of the things I noted a long time ago is there's I don't know if they've updated all of them, but there's a lot of discrepancies between the SC tools wiki and the star map itself with star system sizes. So it looks like it says 7 AU. So take that with a grain of salt, because it's not letting me look on the star map of how big it is. So only slightly bigger than Stanton. But yeah, so we can zoom out and we can see the outermost planet is Tyrannus 4. And then all the jump points seem to be basically at or within the green band of the system. The question is, will they remain there? How much is that going to change? We don't know, but we do get a sort of general idea of what they're going for initially. So, the Tyrannus system. Oops, I'm going to open that up as a separate tab. So the Tyrannus system is an unclaimed planetary system that consists of an A-type main sequence star, a mesoplanet, 2 terrestrial planets, a gas giant, and 2 asteroid belts. Ooh, 2 asteroid belts. Discovered in 2478 by the United Nations of Earth survey ship Mythic Horizon, the initial scouting report classified its planets as high-risk candidates for terraforming, and the system was left largely untouched. During the Meso era, Tyrannus was sometimes used as a test bed for new technology, which led to a 2566 accident that destroyed the moon of Tyrannus 2. Destroyed a moon. I wonder what they were testing, new technology-wise, in 2566 that led to the destruction of a whole moon around Tyrannus 2. Mezzers, doing their own Death Star nonsense. In addition to the dangerous debris field created by this incident, the system's 2 dense asteroid belts pose a persistent navigational hazard for travelers. So this is really interesting because it talks about a debris field from a moon being blown up, but it also mentions how dense the asteroid belts are. And then they post a persistent navigational hazard. So the different asteroid belts are within the game are going to have a lot of variety, both in the shape of the asteroids, what the asteroids contain when you're mining them, as well as the the density of the asteroid belts. Some asteroid belts will be more dense than others. The Aaron Halo in Stanton is supposed to be a very dense asteroid belt, and it's one of the reasons we have to go through gates to get through it, or that's what's planned. And Ghost 1800 couldn't possibly be the Hurstons getting their hands on some artifacts. Yeah. Oh boy. I don't think I had read. If I had read that, I had forgotten it. But that is a seriously big weapon if it can blow up a damn moon. That's no moon. It's a trap. That's no moon. It's a space station. But yeah, when we get down to those, it'll be interesting to see what they say about the asteroid belts and that debris field. So let's Tyrannus 1. So Tyrannus system, a less than friendly locale. Tyrannus 1 has a human face, some claim. Tyrannus 1 is a mesoplanet in the unclaimed Tyrannus system, the closest planet to its sun. Temperatures on Tyrannus 1 are sometimes high enough to warp hulls. Interesting. Yeah, so you're definitely going to need significant shielding if you're going to go to the surface down there to protect your ship. In 2559, the planet came to fame when a new review of survey data captured in the wake of the system's discovery revealed what appeared to be a human face carved into its northern surface. Nicknamed the Face of Tyrannus, this anomaly created a brief cultural craze that eventually led to a privately funded investigatory expedition. Reports confirmed that the so-called face was actually a mountain range that had been photographed in an unusual position. Public interest dissipated shortly thereafter. The question is, has it dissipated completely? Because that might be a destination that you take people to when they're on sightseeing expeditions using your touring ships. So it's something to keep in mind. Tyrannus Belt Alpha, dense and dangerous. Tyrannus Belt Beta, denser and more dangerous. And let's look at Tyrannus Belt Alpha. Tyrannus Belt Alpha is the first of the unclaimed Tyrannus system's asteroid belts. Densely packed with asteroids, frequent collisions occur that eject dust, rocks, and other material into the already crowded area. As a consequence, travel there can be dangerous, and there has been little large-scale commercial activity. Some smaller operations have attempted to turn a profit via mining and other means, but the belt has otherwise been left largely untouched. So this is telling you straightforward that the belt is going to have large concentrations of minables because mining on an industrial scale hasn't really occurred there. The big challenge is because of how dense the asteroid belt is and the frequent collisions. There's going to be a lot of debris flying around. And so you're going to, as a miner in Tyrannus Belt Alpha, you're going to have to be on your toes, moving around. But there's definitely you're likely to have less competition, less threats from less external threats from pirates making their homes and laying in wait in a belt like that. And so it might be worthwhile as a small time miner or a small time mining group. But it's one of those things where if you're maybe mining in your prospector where you get into mining mode and you're not flying your ship is less than ideal because you can't maneuver out of the way. But if you go in a mole where someone stays at the pilot seat, and maintains awareness while the mining laser operators are doing their thing, that might be a more viable practice in order to get in, do some mining and get out unscathed. Tyrannus Belt Beta. The Tyrannus Belt Beta is the second asteroid belt in the unclaimed Tyrannus system. Like its sibling belt, it is dense with asteroids and dangerous to traverse. Nevertheless, some individuals use it as a place to hide from pursuers. Smugglers, pirates, and other outlaws have been known to operate there, making civilian travel in the belt a risky prospect at best. So, when they say things like this, it's really giving an opportunity for the gameplay designers to manipulate the probability volumes, and in this case, for Tyrannus Belt Alpha, probability volumes would be probability that you encounter asteroids of certain types and how many of them, that sort of thing. Tyrannus Belt Beta, manipulation more towards, you being more likely to run into smugglers, pirates, and other outlaws hiding within that belt. So it might still be worthwhile to mine, but you wouldn't want to go there unescorted, and you would want to maybe not go there in your prospector where no one's on the controls, if you need to, go in your mole where someone's on the controls and they can get you out of Dodge sooner rather than later. But in these dense asteroid belts, you have to realize that, you are likely not to have great early warning. So maybe, as part of your operation, you might bring a terrapin, to provide you better early warning in order to get your mining operation up and out of the way, if pirates run into you. So before we go on to the next aspects and read about Tyrannus 2, let's look at the star map, and we'll look at where the belts are. So, interestingly, okay, so you can barely see it, and you're going to want to go, on the star map yourself. But I wonder why it's so difficult to see. But you can see Tyrannus Belt Alpha is right here around, orbiting around the sun right here. It's a very slight line. It's really hard to see at this distance. But you can see that it's, it's about 1/3, maybe halfway from the planet itself to the inner edge of the green belt, where here is Tyrannus Belt Beta, a little bit closer to the inner edge of the green belt. And then the jump point to Terra is just right over here, closer to Tyrannus 1. And so if you jumped in from Terra, you would be very close to Tyrannus Belt Alpha and not far from Tyrannus Belt Beta. And so it might be worthwhile to come in from Terra, where you have your can easily set up your operation. You can come and go in relative safely. Probably plenty of places to do your refining back in the Terra system. But come in, go to the belts, go where you want to go. Keep yourself on the move so that way you don't get hit by asteroids moving around. Oh, says my camera just died. Camera hub right there. Come on, OBS. Well, that's weird. Please run Camera Hub. I'm running it. You can see that I'm running it. Weird. So many issues. Apologize for the delays. Okay. There we go. Now we're back up. That was odd. All right. So, all right. So back to, let's look at Tyrannus 2, Ravaged by Meteors. So Tyrannus 2 is the second planet from the sun of the unclaimed Tyrannus system. Although Tyrannus 2 is classified as a poor choice for terraforming after its discovery, geodeveloper Ophion Inc., which is one of the articles we're going to be reading here coming up, attempted to terraform the planet in 2566 using an experimental process. The company's history of utilizing underpaid and underqualified labor along with substandard parts to cut costs led to numerous accidents, the worst of which scarred the planet's landscape and cracked its moon in half. Interesting. Okay, so before we keep going, during the Meso era, Tyrannus was sometimes used as a testbed for new technology, which led to a 2566 accident that destroyed the moon of Tyrannus 2. So it wasn't the Mesers testing weapons that cracked the moon of Tyrannus 2 in half, but terraformers. The question is this true? Or is this a cover story, made up by the Mesers to cover up for them doing experimental things in the Tyrannus system, but saying that the terraforming accidents scarred the planet's landscape and cracked its moon in half. I think this could just be a big cover story laid by the Mesers in order to protect their reputation for things that they're doing in the Tyrannus system. Matter from the resulting debris field has been striking Tyrannus 2 ever since. much of the terraforming machinery Ophion abandoned has fallen to the planet's surface, where it continues to burn. So that'll be interesting to see. Um, if you go to Tyrannus 2, you'll see meteor showers from the bits and pieces left over from Tyrannus 2's broken moon falling into the planet's atmosphere, but also um, the terraforming machinery. It says much of the terraforming machinery Ophion abandoned has fallen to the planet's surface. So there will likely be derelict terraforming stations and terraforming apparatus still in orbit around Tyrannus 2. But then you'll be able to find it on the surface as well, where it continues to burn. The big question is, how big is this terraforming machinery, and how valuable is it? Would it be worthwhile to salvage the terraforming machinery still in orbit, or that which has fallen to the planet's surface? So that's something to think about. Lore equals gameplay right there. But again, kind of like navigating the two asteroid belts. With all the collisions, you're going to have to watch out for meteor showers, and flaming debris as you're going through these operations. So it might be worthwhile, and valuable, but not without risk. All right, so Tyrannus 2A, so the broken moon. Tyrannus 2A. Oh, let's see. Here is Tyrannus 2 in the green belt. Here's Tyrannus 2A, just orbiting it right there. So definitely within the green belt. The question is, will someone ever try to terraform it? It's been several hundred years since those incidents. Is it worthwhile to terraform now? So Tyrannus 2A. Tyrannus 2A is the moon of Tyrannus 2, the second planet of the sun from the sun of the unclaimed Tyrannus system. During the Mesor era, the geo-development company Ophion Inc. used Tyrannus 2A and its parent planet as test beds for various new terraforming technologies, including a dubiously designed platform that was meant to utilize the moon's orbital energy as a power source. A combination of errors in math from the overworked and underpaid engineers, mistakes in construction from the exhausted workers, overall poor design, and the use of shoddy parts led to a catastrophic energy discharge from the largest platform that ruptured the mantle of Tyrannus 2A, eventually causing the moon to break apart. The Broken Moon of Tyrannus map featured in the popular space flight simulator Arena Commander was inspired by Tyrannus 2A. Oh, I had no idea. I did not realize that Broken Moon was Tyrannus 2A. That is very interesting. I didn't realize that. So it'll be interesting to see, in game what the remnants of Tyrannus 2A look like. As far as the debris field and how much of that moon is left intact, along with the debris that's floating around it and coming to land and crash on Tyrannus 2. Tyrannus 3, often stormy, but still a home to some. So Tyrannus 3 is the third planet from the sun of the unclaimed Tyrannus system. A smog planet, it has a thick and high-pressure atmosphere that gives rise to frequent storms. Although the air isn't breathable, it is home to a sizable settlement of humans and Tavaran, interesting, situated in an abandoned research station called Bethor. Interesting. Well, I'm sure this is going to be one of the articles we read. So, abandoned research station. The question is, what is that abandoned research station like? If there's frequent storms, is it an underground research station? Does it have a large above ground presence that extends below the surface, which would make sense with the frequent storms? But the abandoned research part is going to be really interesting to see how they put that together with the tools that they're building. Established in 2536, it was originally created as a base of operations for a privately funded research team interested in weather control techniques. Expats from the United Empire of Earth claimed the abandoned station in 2551 and have since expanded it. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what that research station looks like in terms of how it's built, using the tools they have, and what it ends up looking like. But you can imagine that this settlement, Bethor, is going to be a lot like um, uh, Levski. As far as expats living there, in order to not be under the thumb of the UEE, you're going to have, humans and Tavaran. So it's going to be a very interesting place to visit, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like and how they put it together. So Tyrannus 3 is right out here at the outer edge of the green band, but it's close to the Helios jump point. At least on the star map as it is right now. So you can imagine if you're going, potentially a good route, either without having to go through the dense belts. If you're coming from Helios, if you wanted to reach Tyrannus 3, that might be a good location to go through to visit that settlement. Tyrannus 4, ringed by asteroids. Tyrannus 4 is the fourth planet from the sun of the unclaimed Tyrannus system. Its hydrogen and helium atmosphere is pale yellow, banded with cream and tan. As the system's main stop for harvesting fuel, it sees occasional traffic from independent travelers. However, its thick ring of captured asteroids discourages stops from larger commercial ships. Again, lore equals gameplay right here. This is the only gas giant in the system, so it's the only place you can really harvest fuel in large scale. But it has a thick ring of asteroids floating around it, so it's dangerous to larger ships. The question is, where does it draw that line? Could you go in there with your Starfarer and get out relatively unscathed? Or is it going to be too risky? Are there going to be smaller fuelers that you can go in there? Or is this just a place where you jump out there to fuel up your tanks and then head back and continue on your way in your smaller ship? It's lore equals gameplay. There's refueling right there at Tyrannus 4, so let's look at that on the star map. But it is way out here at the edge of the system. Now the question is, is that near edge? Is that 7 AU from the center? Is that 7 AU across? How long of a jump are you looking? Is it going to be worthwhile to go that far out? But knowing that there is fuel, a decent fuel source available, is a knowledge that you're going to want to have. Let's see. So that is it for the locations surrounding the lore of the Tyrannus system, the planets and asteroid belts. But now we're going to read about Ophion Inc. And tell you what, before we do that, just because I'm curious, so we're going to open up Tyrannus 3, but we're going to go to Bethor. So Bethor is that settlement. So Bethor is a research station built in 2536 for privately funded scientists studying the atmosphere of Tyrannus 3. After their research was completed, the station was abandoned and squatters began to seek shelter here. The original station's layout has been expanded piece by piece over the centuries by the various settlements who have made their home there. Currently is home to a mixed population of Tavaran and humans. So there's nothing that says underground, but that could be something that is built using the Rastar tool as they add more and more modules to it and overlays for it in order to represent how it's been expanded from its original form. So definitely looking forward to visiting Bethor on Tyrannus 3. Ophion, which is that cost-cutting terraforming corporation. Ophion Inc. was a geodevelopment and terraforming company that operated from 2501 to 2567, so not very long, only 66 years. Founded by Euronome Rhodes, who was initially known for its conscientious business practices and high rates of pay. However, after the founder's son, Savion Guerra Rhodes, inherited the company in 2560, he began to implement cost-saving measures that resulted in shoddy products and low levels of employee satisfaction. Guerra Rhodes utilized the resulting capital to purchase terraforming rights to Tyrannus 2 and its moons from the UE government, where he planned to test the effectiveness of a new technology meant to utilize the orbital energy of Tyrannus 2A as a power source. Instead, the company caused a catastrophic accident that destroyed Tyrannus 2A and the resulting financial and public fallout forced the company to close its doors in 2567. The other thing to think about with these companies that close shop and everything is, what did they leave behind? So every time you hear about a company that went out of business, especially if they had potentially built either installations on the ground or up in space, where did they leave those things that were abandoned? And going and visiting those locations to utilize those abandoned facilities, whether they're in space or on the ground, to your own ends. Cass Aerospace, creators of the original Hurricane, the predecessor to Anvil. So Cass Aerospace was a spacecraft manufacturer that operated from 2599 to 2623, only 24 years. Founded by noted ship designer and former RSI engineer Leonard Cass, it released its first ship in 2604, the limited-run Cosmos Sloop. Due to the ongoing Second Devaran War, the leisure craft sales were lower than projected, and Cass made the decision to pivot his designs from civilian to military. In the 2607, Hurricane fighter saw success in the latter years of the war. After the conflict ended, the company accepted a contract from the UE government to create a long-range patrol ship, but all work ceased when Cass passed away in 2615 after an in-air collision. The board sold the company to an investment firm in 2620 and closed its doors. In 2784, J. Harris Arnold of Anvil Aerospace purchased Cass Aerospace's portfolio in response to a copyright infringement lawsuit for allegedly stealing elements of Cass's designs. Today, Anvil utilizes Cass's signature elements of curved wings and an open circle signet in many of its ships. Leonard Cass. Leonard Cass was a notable spacecraft designer and engineer and founder of Cass Aerospace, known for his influence on J. Harris Arnold, Silas Kerner, Jules Parley, and other aerospace luminaries. Ooh, Jules Parley. Looking forward to seeing who that is. In 2587, he was hired as a junior engineer at RSI and was assigned to the Starbright transport team, where he was promoted after identifying a potentially dangerous flaw in its design. By 2595, he had been named lead designer of the 2600 Starbright, which was praised for its entry system and internal flight controls upon its release. In 2599, he left RSI, citing dissatisfaction with the hierarchical structure, and founded his own company, Cass Aerospace, which operated on a flat organizational model in which everyone's opinions would have equal weight. He was only able to create two ships, the Cosmos Sloop and the Hurricane fighter, before perishing in a mid-air collision in 2615. So he was 52 years old. His work rose to fame in the 2780s when J. Harris Arnold of Anvil Aerospace began to feature Cass's signature flourishes in his own designs. In 2902, he was inducted into the Edison Design Institute Hall of Fame. Centurion, a short-range tank? Oh, well, why are you calling it a tank? The Centurion is a short-range anti-aircraft ground vehicle manufactured by Anvil Aerospace. Like the Ballista and the Spartan, it's built on the Atlas platform. Intended to work in tandem with longer-range vehicles, the Centurion was designed as a mobile perimeter defense system able to operate in a variety of environments. It comes with a turret with a gunner seat and a remote turret controlled by the driver, and features a thick armored hull. It'll be interesting to see when they get armor in game, how that affects things like the Nova Tank, the Centurion, Spartan, and Ballista, and see how that impacts their survivability. Nova Riders, long-range pirates. Long-range. Let's see what they mean by that. The Nova Riders were an outlaw group that entered notoriety in the early 2500s when they became the first known people to steal a spacecraft mid-flight. And I know that Paul takes issue with this article because of what it insinuates about stealing ships mid-flight and doing that sort of thing. But it'll be interesting to see how that gets cleared up, and what that ends up being like. Because when they say first known people to steal a spacecraft mid-flight, to me that means that they boarded it while it was flying. It did stop. They docked and boarded with it. So it'll be interesting to see what that how that pans out. Uh, Ghost 1800 says it also shreds racers at their courses. Oh yeah, the Centurion. It is vaguely worded, yeah, and probably whether it needs clarification or not, I don't know, but it's interesting to think about how what that insinuates about how challenging it is to board a ship um, as it's moving while it's in flight. And how often that actually happens versus having disabling the ship, and making it come to a stop. During this time, ships were sold at such a high cost that they were primarily owned by the wealthy and were commonly stolen at stations and ports. The gang was known for their practice of playing loud thrash metal music on all communication frequencies in order to prevent their targets from calling for help. The group was disbanded by the military in 2517, but formed again a few years later, utilizing the same techniques. Since then, it has formed and dissolved again multiple times. So it'll be interesting to see. Again, this is Lore Equals gameplay. It'll be interesting to see how the descriptions of things of pirate organizations, well, not just pirate organizations, but organizations in general, but especially pirate organizations, to see how they operate and what techniques they favor, given the AI and how it's programmed with the AI system they're building. If the Nova Riders like to use these techniques, how will they execute that in game, and how will you try to counter it in areas where the Nova Riders are prominent? So it's something to think about and keep an eye on, because knowing this information, could help you prepare better, when you're going in certain areas of space. The giant Yar moth, not to be confused with Tasha Yar. The giant Yar moth is a flying arthropod indigenous to Yar, Centauri 2. Typically, it has a wingspan of 20 centimeters, making it one of the largest moths on Yar. It survives in the harsh red desert by drinking the nectar of desert flowers and juices from vegetation, and primarily flying in the early morning or evening. It is one of the most common pollinators of plants that grow in the red desert, particularly the Kavish cactus. Interesting. So another, they talked about in a recent monthly report the development of the AI for boids, bird-oid objects, I think it is how that's broken down. So that way things that skitter around and move and don't have complex behaviors, things like birds and rats and insects, rodents and other things like that, small reptiles, what have you, when they come into the game, these are the things you'll see more often. And, I imagine you will probably get contracts to collect samples and such. The Fair's ape. The Fair's ape is a human-like primate indigenous to Etos, Osiris 1, a nocturnal animal. The ape spends its days sleeping in caves or under self-created dwellings, and its nights foraging for fruit, seeds, leaves, and other plant-based foods. Biologists believe that it has the potential to develop higher thinking, thanks to its use of tools and practice of constructing shelter. It is largely due to the presence of Fair's ape that Etos is under the protection of the Fair Chance Act. And the Fair Chance Act is the one that protects planets, and it protects the entire system. But you can traverse fair chance systems, but you can't go down to the planet, and you're really supposed to not even orbit the planets that are protected. But so that's the Osiris system, and Osiris 1 in particular. The question is, will we be able to see them? I imagine so. The question is, what illegal mission are you going to undertake in order to visit and see the Fair's ape? What unscrupulous scientist is going to pay you to get a sample, or take a video footage or something like that, to make it worthwhile to smuggle yourself down to the planet's surface. Quantanium. Quantanium is a deep red-orange mineral that occurs in igneous rock formations, a key ingredient in quantum fuel. Okay, so before we keep reading, a key ingredient in quantum fuel. So this is good information that helps solidify, what we've all suspected to be true, is that in order to refine quantanium into quantum fuel, you're going to need other additives as part of a recipe process in order to create the quantum fuel, just like a lot of other things. Um, Part of and I imagine there's probably going to be risk to refining it as well. Quantanium becomes unstable when it is extracted and is prone to breakage and degradation. Over time, it becomes more and more likely to combust, which sometimes results in explosions. Mining companies that extract quantanium must operate under strict safety regulations. Some independent miners have become injured or have died due to quantanium-related accidents. Now, we've known this for a while because quantanium has been mineable in game for a while. But as new players come into the game, that they're not going to be aware of this common information, and so this is going to be available to them via the Galactapedia and in game soon, as the narrative team moves all this information and makes it accessible via an app and prompts and stuff within the game. Pardon me, I need to drink some water. Mike Lansing, thanks for joining me. Good to see you. So the other thing that's interesting is, obviously they're not writing them into a corner. They're not going to say what other ingredients are needed in order to refine quantum fuel. But it'll be interesting to see as they add other elements and fuels and products that are common, in game, if they give us other hints about, what else is going to be needed in terms of refinery gameplay, as well as giving you warnings and information about best practices regarding to mining or an extraction, for like fuels and stuff. The Matakiai, the beast that inspires fear. Whoa. Well, let me just open that up. That thing is here. See, as dang it. Well, that's dumb. Should make it easier for you to look at that image, but that thing is gnarly looking. The Matakiai is a forest-dwelling apex predator indigenous to G, or Ryla 5. Speakers of UE standard sometimes refer to it as the Takiai. About 2 meters in length. Okay, so it's not as big as it looks in that image, but still pretty big. It has occasionally been known to take down prey twice its size. Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty significant. Its long, curved claws help it grip branches, and membranes under its arms help it glide from tree to tree. Oh, it's a giant carnivorous sugar baby. Those glider squirrel things. Go stay tuned. The Xi'an Boogeyman. Yeah, that thing is very frightening. Look at that tail. I mean, I don't think that's like a spike for stabbing you, but it's that thing is just gnarly. An ambush predator, it typically waits among the leaves for unsuspecting prey to pass underneath it, then drops down and attacks. Although it is endangered on G, there is a healthy population of Matakiai on the preserved world of Ko Li. Okay, so endangered on G, but on the preserved world of Ko Li, which I think is one of those places that you have to have specific permission to visit. Again, lore equals gameplay. Speaking from a gameplay perspective, obviously, if you're on G, you are, and you're out in the forest, you're going to want to be very wary of these super scary drop bears. Apparently these are, if they can take down prey twice its size and it's as long as a human, a large human, you better believe that they will be coming for you. If your mission is to go to the preserve world of Koli in the Yaluth system, um, in order, maybe you need to, you know, hunt one of these and bring it back to some sort of collector, whether you need to kill it or capture it, or collect a specimen for some scientist. I imagine all of that would be illegal, but probably pay quite a bit, but also be very dangerous. So that could be some very interesting gameplay that could come out of that. But yeah, that thing is quite frightening looking. Nagi, the beast that makes Xion say "aw." I'm glad they're including the drawings of these things too. The Nagi, also called the Yao Yao after the sound it makes, is a semi-aquatic domestic animal indigenous to Raijian Khiotun 3, a popular pet in the Xi'an Empire. It has lived alongside the Xi'an since they developed farming and is used for pest control and fishing along with companionship. Nagi typically have free roam of the homes they live in and sleep on perches meant to mimic low tree branches. Speakers of UE Standard have been known to refer to the Nagi as the Yengi cat. Oh, okay. So maybe that's how it's pronounced. Yengi cat. All I know is I want one. I want it on my ship. I want it as a companion. I want to go fishing with it. I wonder if you bring it with you, does it give you like a buff to fishing if you're going to go fishing to help you find more fish? And so it says it's used for pest control. If you remember, during IAE this last year, Jax had those dang crabs, or he found those dang crabs infesting those ships. I wonder if you had one of these on your ship and you went to a planet that had pests on it, if it would help prevent those pests from infesting your ship and damaging damaging your ship. Because that would be really cool to have. If you have one of those things, it just naturally does that, and it leaves the carcasses of the dead Boyds at on your bed in your captain's quarters, and okay, good job, thanks. It's those in the trash. But yeah, I definitely want one. I wonder how many like different colors and stuff they come in. What sort of variety they have. Yeah, but I like that they're encouraging that, and it definitely leaves open some pretty interesting possibilities for having it as a pet as you're traversing the verse. Let's see. Casa, the patron of good luck. Casa, the patron of luck. Kassan, the patron of luck, is the Banu god of fortune, prosperity, money, and merchants. Although its origins are unknown, it is one of the most common deities in the Banu pantheon for its governance over success in business. Religious sulis that represent Casa travel from religious sulis that represent Casa travel from Suli to Suli, collecting offerings and prayer commissions from Banu seeking good fortune in trade. Because it is so commonly seen on altars throughout the Banu Protectorate, xenoanthropologists speculate that it may be one of the oldest Banu gods still worshipped. I wonder if, if you go to these altars, and you make an offering, I wonder if there's a chance that, it gives you a temporary buff, in dealing with the merchants, maybe you make an offering and you get 10% off your purchase for the next 30 minutes or something like that when dealing with Banu. That would be an interesting way to incorporate these sorts of things besides just, look at that, that's kind of cool looking. Ternin, the Great Traveler. Ternin, the Great Traveler, is the Banu god of travelers, crossroads, and navigation, and is one of the most common deities in the Banu pantheon. Due to the Banu practice of not recording historical events, its origins are shrouded in mystery. When it is depicted, Ternin closely resembles a Banu and is often portrayed standing in a boat and holding an oar. Sulis that depend on travel for trade often commission prayers to Ternin from religious Sulis to keep them safe from unforeseen obstacles. Xenoanthropologists believe that Ternin worship may have originated on the Banu homeworld. Again, really interesting stuff, and the question is, how do they make it more than just, interesting filler? You know, yeah, can you make an offering to Ternu and or Ternin, and maybe it gives you a boost to sensors, or gives you a chance to find an unknown object or something like that. I don't know, just spitballing here, but it's interesting that they included these gods. There also, I could see, if you make an offering, to these gods, as part of a business practice or business dealing, in order to get better reputation with these different sulis. Make this, make an offering that's relevant to this god, as part of your dealings with one of these sulis, and it can help increase your reputation with them. That would be another way that they can incorporate that into gameplay. Close the terrain system, so we can close the star map as well. We'll keep the wiki open just in case. So that's it for the Galactapedia update. And I thought it might be interesting because the other thing that has come out recently since this Galactapedia update was the Q&A from the narrative team. Let's see if we can find it really quick. I forgot to open it up ahead of time. Loremakers Community Questions. Here we go. So let's take a look at these really quick. So welcome to Loremakers Community Questions, a series focused on answering your lore quandaries and conundrums. We've done a deep dive through the lore Ask a Dev section and selected 10 questions to answer about the Star Citizen universe. All questions were edited for context and clarity, but you can click on the topic to go directly to the original post and join the conversation. Also, the narrative team plans to do one installment of Loremakers Community Questions every quarter, with the next entry scheduled for Tuesday, June 20th. So please join the discussion and drop any other questions you might have about the universe in our Ask a Dev forum. Mezzers in the name of the United Empire of Earth. Why is it still called the UEE when the Mezzers, now widely seen as malevolent dictators, originally gave it that name? Is there some reason why they opted not to rename the UE to something new, without the historical baggage after the Mezzer era? Answer. The simple answer is democracy. On April 30th, 2793, the Senate voted on the massive Governance Modernization Act, meant to repair and reform a system warped to the will of the Mezzers for far too long. Within this piece of legislation was a provision that would have renamed the UEE to the Democratic Stellar Union, while another would have removed the Empire's capital from Earth to Terra. Following a spirited debate within the Senate, the GMA fell 3 votes short of passing. The question is, so if the GMA, the entire act, didn't pass, were there other acts that were put forth that incorporated the repairs and reforms that they were looking for without the things that didn't, the changing the name and moving the capital? Of course, the real answer is much more complicated. It's a mixture of politics, optics, adoration for the past, and other factors. While the revolution was successful, not everyone supported it. Plenty of people and systems benefited from the Mezzer regime and their politics, while others were happy to see the Mezzers go, but believed the underlying institutions didn't need to be drastically overhauled. It could be argued that bundling the name change alongside other initiatives in the GMA, like the still controversial proposal to move the capital to Terra, forever tainted and politicized the idea. It made supporting a new name synonymous with moving the capital to Terra, an idea Earth-centric politicians and corporations strongly opposed. Meanwhile, others argued that renaming the Empire would make humanity look weak to the Xi'an Empire and immediately nullify trade treaties with the Banu, grinding vital interspecies trading to a halt. One anti-name change senator even calculated the cost of updating the Empire's name on buildings, ships, equipment, armor, stationery, and more. Though the astronomical sum and the methodology used to achieve it were widely disputed, the number became a cultural punchline, turning people off to the idea and onto the immensity of the issue it would be to rename the Empire. Changing the name of the UE has never come to a vote again after the failure of the GMA. Blaming the politicization of the idea or the Earth-centric entities desperate not to lose political, economic, or cultural cachet. Blame the potential real-world and political costs, all these factors and more combined to keep the name UEE around after the downfall of the measures. Once it survived that turbulent time, the UE worked hard to redefine itself so it would symbolize something other than the despotic regime that named it. Historic ship hall at the IAE. Why doesn't the IAE have a historic ship hall? It would be great to have historical ships like the Zeus for players to see, even if it's only on the outside. This is a fun idea, but probably outside the current scope for IAE. Having a historical ship hall makes sense in lore, but would require extensive support from other teams. Even showing only the ship exteriors would necessitate that they go through the concept phase, which would include creating or reworking each ship's design language to be unique and era appropriate before being modeled in engine to meet our high standards. That would be a lot of work for an IAE hall. That said, there is an interest in making flyable versions of historical ships. If we end up building enough of these, then there could potentially be such a hall at future IAE expos. Trash and recycling options. How are we supposed to sort our trash and recycling? Based on the bins currently in game, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It sparked some serious discussions between me and my friends and kept me up at night. Wow, if you're kept up at night about recycling, okay. I even asked the Reddit SC Discord, but everyone had different answers. Please help us settle this important waste separation discussion. It's more relevant than ever and also has some potential gameplay around it. Cleaning up the trash could offer a small incentive, like improving your rep, reducing fines, lowering crime stats, and so forth. Answer: not only does litter make us bitter, it's also a potential issue for servers to handle. While the game could just magically make garbage disappear, the hope is that we can develop it as part of possible gameplay loops and allow players to help with properly discarding items. That's why design has been tasked with figuring out how to handle things players want to throw away. The narrative team has had an initial broad discussion with them, but it's still very much a work in progress. While nothing is set in stone, one of the proposed ideas is that the player shouldn't have to sort anything. A player could place their unwanted items into any bin, and it would be sorted behind the scenes. This would make it easy for players to keep the servers from getting bogged down. If the path is chosen, the lore could lean into a bit of future tech, like a smart trash sorting system, to explain how it works. There's also discussions about how to incentivize players to toss things in the trash, but nothing has been settled on yet. Would certain kinds of trash offer higher incentives to others? One thing to keep in mind is that providing a perk, like improving rep or lowering a crime stat, ties into other systems and might lead to unintended consequences. For example, imagine a player who is focused on earning a reputation with a particular gang. They may take a few minutes to toss trash into the bins at Orison, only to have the rep boost with Crusader mess with their outlaw status. However these issues get sorted, the narrative team is definitely looking forward to the satisfaction of placing an empty Pips can where it belongs. The Xi'an Chop Soup Express. Xi'an Hot Pot back on menu. Well, that's dark as hell looking. Drama and tension. Question: how do you plan to introduce tension and suspense into the narrative of this universe? Everyone is functionally immortal. No one can die from anything but old age. How do you write around that? Okay, well, that's not correct at all. The opportunities to introduce drama and tension in the narrative of the universe are limitless. There's tension in what system lies on the other side of the newly discovered jump. There's drama in a Hurston hiding from their family that they fell in love with a member of the United Workers of Houston. Death is fertile ground for drama and tension, but not the sole source. Also, I wouldn't classify regen tech as functional immortality. Yeah, someone didn't read that lore piece at all. It may currently feel that way in game because of the mechanic hasn't been fully implemented, but the regen system should have plenty of interesting wrinkles that create tension. For example, catastrophic deaths may result in injuries or effects that stick with your character. The loss of a ship or a frantic race to retrieve a precious or valuable item following a death is another. Plus, there's always the chance that this death might be the final one and result in that character passing on their stuff to an heir, new character. Yeah, Death of a Spaceman never went away. They just added in regen in between, living and Death of a Spaceman. Since the full system isn't in game yet, it's worth reading both the original Death of a Spaceman post and Loremakers Guide to Regeneration to better understand our goals. Please read these. They're both very interesting and informative, but also they really help set expectations about what it's going to be like in the future. Within the lore, we've already explored drama and tensions around regen and death in posts like Far From Home, Regen Contemplation, Star Watch Bow 2.0, and Crossroads. These were great lore pieces. I highly recommend you reading those. Ghost 1800. I absolutely love that quote from The Simpsons. I'm invincible. Wait, no, that's not what it means at all. Invincible. Yeah, I need to incorporate that into the stream somehow for like whenever I die or something. And I play the soundbite. Death won't be without consequence, tension, and drama in the game. It'll just be different than what we're used to. Does the UEE have a universal date and time system? How about aliens? How is time handled in the UEE? Is 1 year still 365 days? How is that counted when the length of a day can vary from planet to planet? Do alien species have a sense of time? If so, do they have a different year than ours and a completely different time? How do you talk about time between two different species? You're right, it's very complicated to figure out a time in a universe where we have multiple planets, each with their own day-year cycle. How do you make plans to meet with someone, for example? The way we got around it is establishing standard Earth time as a standardized date time signature that's embraced around the UEE. That way, everyone would adhere and could plan to a single clock, even though they would still potentially have their own local time. Now, the question is, if they move the capital to Terra, will it become standard Terra time (STT), and then everybody's going to have to rechange everything. Aliens would also use SET when dealing with humans, but have their own sense and scale of time. 100 Geon years roughly equates to 128 standard Earth years, and Rai Hayum is their word for a human year. Meanwhile, the Banu count time in beats, which they call Umi, and equates to 5 seconds in human standard time. As members of the UEE, Tavarans would use SET. Finally, anyone who's taken a moment to ask a Vandal about their concept of time has died, so their perception and experience of it remains unknown. Before you kill me, tell me, how do you guys tell time? Where is Gliese 667cc? Do you have any information about this planet? I could not find any in the Galactapedia. Let's see. The Gliese system in-game is not meant to represent the real Gliese 667 triple star system. Outside of Sol, all other systems in the game are fictional, and even if they share a name, are not intended to have a real-world equivalent. As the old Star Citizen adage goes, space be crazy. Why does that have a link? Oh, it's a timestamp. And human knowledge of what lies out there is ever expanding. To save ourselves from constantly updating or retconning system information based on new discoveries, the narrative team decided it would best to keep them fictional. Place names. I was wondering what the narrative team plans are for naming features in the verse. Naming for things like the lakes, seas, and oceans and rivers. Larger created on moons often have a distinct name, as do mountains and plains. This makes wayfinding easier and fleshes out the believability of places. Colonized worlds would undoubtedly have named features often given to them by the first person to discover or traverse them. I haven't seen any references to names or the naming convention, so I was just curious. This topic pops up often as we continue to build out and expand planetside locations. Much of the discussion around it is actually what or how much information should be given to the player. Does every mountain peak need a name? What about a small squatters camp set up within the husk of a crashed ship? Would its name show up on the star map? And if so, what would it be the name used by its residents? Is it weird that a group of 10 who took to living in the crashed ship somehow got their name for the place on the star map? Should names of places only reveal themselves once players visit them? Should players be able to adjust the names of things on their own star map? For now, narrative has only named what's been deemed essential. How far we go with the naming of locations and environmental features is still to be seen, but one option would be to create a name generator that could kick out a bunch of distinct names that could then be assigned to locations. We already use one to generate names such as in bounty missions, and have messed around with one for businesses that could be used in building interiors. Oh, interesting. Such a location name generator would be very helpful if we need to name a bunch of places for the star map. because as fun as it sounds, coming up with names for things, that fun fades fast and can become mentally exhausting once you have a couple hundred to tackle. While we'd still look to handcraft as many names as feasible, by utilizing a name generator for smaller locations, we'd be able to quickly get a wide swath of options and then spend our time picking and placing the good ones. I think this is a good way in which CIG could use Chat GPT or other AI for a name generator, and could also generate a little blurb for that name that fits within the universe of Star Citizen. Effects of regeneration on society. I'm going to bet that this person probably hasn't read the regen article. I'm curious to hear from the narrative team on the effects that regeneration has on a society. I was trying to think how such a fundamental shift would affect society, since many of our long-standing laws and morals would be deeply challenged by the fact that death is no longer final. Would execution as a punishment even exist? Would murder be as heavily punished as it is now? It would seem that in general, people would value life less, as death would not be final. Assuming a person imprinted before a dangerous mission, non-traumatic suicide, i.e. cyanide pill, would be a mostly viable means of escaping capture. High-risk economic activity would be seen as more viable. In fact, it's likely that crime would explode for a period while society adjusts to the fact that being killed in the commission of a crime is no longer the end. Someone did not read the narrative post. Death is not necessarily final, or until it is, but it's not without consequence. Come on, people. Resources once considered too dangerous to extract would be actively sought out by those with the means to imprint regen. Acts once considered extremely noble, i.e. captain going down to the ship, would be simply commonplace or even contractually required. Sorry, I know this has been kind of rambling, but it's something I've been wondering about more and more. I'd love to hear the lore team's take on regeneration and what it would mean for society. Maybe you should read the original lore post. We know this question comes around a lot, and it's of great interest to the community. The narrative team actually dedicated one of our recent lore jams to elaborate on the subject of this question. First, the death penalty. The practice would be impacted by regeneration tech, but the death penalty itself has already been outlawed in the verse for hundreds of years. As for murder, the law has gone a simple route. It is the act of murder that is being punished. Whether someone successfully regenerates or not, the prosecution is the same. Second, using regeneration as an out. It's not unheard of for criminals to use regenerating to escape a disadvantageous situation, but it's not all that common either. It's important to remember that regeneration is not pleasant. Even if death itself is painless, regeneration is not. And then there's all the other side effects like scarring, loss of memory, or being unable to use limbs you've previously lost even after they've been regenerated, because the loss has been deeply imprinted upon your consciousness. If you lose a limb as part of your death, if you're in, or you have a substantial injury to that limb and then you die, you have that imprint on you when you regen. And you would have to go through a costly procedure or, replacement of that limb in order to be whole again. Using regeneration as an out is an extreme action, like sawing off your arm when you've been pinned under a rock. Even if it's your only way out, how many people would actually go through with it? Third, the broader cultural impact. It's understandable that we want to try and explain the risk-embracing behavior of players as an indication of the broader cultural impact of regeneration. But people don't drive more recklessly because they have seatbelts. A lot of the repercussions and limitations of regeneration aren't represented in the current iteration of the game, so while some individuals might be more reckless, it's likely they were predisposed for that behavior regardless of the wide availability of regeneration. For companies and organizations like the UEE, regeneration is still a costly process. For companies and organizations like the UEE, regeneration is still a costly process. That's the big thing that people need to remember. It's cheap to imprint. It is not cheap to regen. It's going to cost you a lot of UEC. You're going to need to have insurance. And even if you do regen, going through that initial regen doesn't mean that you are whole again. And these things were, part of that original narrative post that they made. Yeah. This is what Paul has been screaming about it too. This is what I've been screaming into the nothingness about regen, is people didn't read the lore post, and they didn't read, and if they did, they didn't read it critically, and they come up with questions like these, and it's like, no, this has already been explained. Regen is not ubiquitous. Regen is still expensive. Equate regen to university level hospitals and having a university level hospital surgical suite available to you. It is still stupid costly. You're still going to have recovery periods and scars from it, and they're not going to be everywhere. You're not going to be regenning in your clinic on a space station or on your Carrack, because it is a very costly endeavor. They literally told you right here, it's costly for major, big corporations in the UEE, and so they try and avoid having you regen if possible, because of how expensive it is, and they're just reiterating what we already know. And it's almost always either cheaper, easier, or simply more moral to focus on saving lives than it is to rely on this imperfect technology. Medical gameplay. That's why medical gameplay is so important, because they want you to sustain your character, to repair your character just like your ship, to be attached to your character and maintain your character's health, rather than just pressing backspace and regenning. They're going to disincentivize you to regen, and incentivize you, to seek out medical care and to maintain the health. Victura gave another tier 1 sub to Sergeant Tickles. They've given 6 subs in this channel, so we're actually up to, I think it says 17 out of 20 total subs. I really appreciate it, Victura. Victura has been someone, I think you've been watching on YouTube. I need to talk to Sergeant Tickles. Oh, do tell. Please give me more details. Victoria, I think you've been watching on YouTube, but this is your first time hanging out on Twitch. He is the heart you are missing. I don't know what that means. You gotta fill me in more. Regeneration is a huge focus on saving lives than it is to rely on this imperfect technology. Regeneration is a huge topic that we could explore for days on end. It is definitely part of the fabric of what makes Star Citizen unique as a science fiction setting. Don't forget that in the lore of the universe, regeneration is still very new technology. It was only released publicly in the UE a few years ago, so the full extent of its impact hasn't been seen yet. Lore about the 325th Aggressor Squadron. Oh, gotcha. Air Force. Oh, okay. So Sergeant Tickles is a Air Force person. I'm guessing they're a streamer, content creator. I'm looking at my tablet over here. Okay, yeah, I'll definitely reach out to him. I'm not aware of them, so I'll check out some of their content and then send it over to Atira Kell and Nightcob, and see if we can if they'd be interested in having him on. Having him, her? I don't know who this is, as part of one of our guests, because yeah, we've been wanting to have guests, especially have an Air Force member on, because right now we're just represented by Army, Marine, and Navy. Him, cool. Them. But yeah, no, that'd be really great. I appreciate the recommendation. I do need to adjust the scene for armchair admirals and generals to allow for a guest, and that's going to require some Photoshop work. You're literally adding my something. It keeps on putting asterisks or stars in. But yeah, by all means. Lore about the 323rd Aggressor Squadron. While searching for information about badges given at the first referral program level, I discovered the incredible stories of some squadrons, but found nothing related to the 323rd. They did it again. Is there any lore around the 323rd? I'm really curious to know about the notable actions of the squadron. The UEE Navy Aggressor Squadron 323 was first introduced into lore as part of the announcement for the Asperia manufactured Vanduul glaive reproduction. Specializing in mimicking Vanduul tactics, the highly skilled squadron was selected to be outfitted with the first production run of human-made glaives so they could operate training skirmishes to better prepare Navy pilots going up against Vanduul clans. That's really cool that they had human pilots flying human reproductions of Vanduul ships using Vanduul technologies as part of training evolutions to get humans ready for fighting against them. Yeah, I don't know why it abbreviates it either. Maybe because you're putting AF, like as in as fuck. I don't know. Let's see. So that's pretty cool. Traditionally, an aggressor squadron is one that serves the role of being the enemy during training exercises and war games. In Star Citizen, this means that the 323 have become masters of Vanduul combat behavior and can fly with their unique aggressive flight style in a convincing manner. Before Asperia started making accurate reproductions, aggressor squadrons like the 323 would fly either normal military ships, frequently outfitted in special livery to make them seem more Vanduul, or the rare Vanduul salvage ship, though the latter was infrequently used owing to the impracticalities involved. That the Vanduul are known for, if a ship is disabled, they boom. Based out of MacArthur, Killian 5, the Navy's official headquarters, the 323 frequently recruit pilots who are near the end of their service commitment as a way to utilize their combat experience before they retire. As mentioned in the question, Star Citizen's referral program features an aggressor Squadron 323 no quarter given badge to display as part of the Badger and Badges reward given for obtaining the rank of recruiter. However, in researching this question, the narrative team discovered a typo in the description of this reward where the squadron was referred to incorrectly as the 35th. It should now be correctly. I am intrigued by SPOP. What does it sound like? And we just read about SPOP in the Galactapedia update. Yeah, the military red team. Victoria, do you know what Sergeant Tickles did in the Air Force? Military occupational specialty or job description? SPOP, let's see, form of human popular music originating on Saisei, which is Centauri 3. Common characteristics of SPOP include the incorporation of relaxing organic source sounds and traditional Saisei instruments. The term can refer either specifically to the popular music of Saisei or to any music functionally derived therefrom. What would be the closest contemporary equivalent to SPOP? I've found some genres which might fit the description, but without knowing what traditional Saisei instruments are or how they would sound, I'd love to know more. You asked this question at just the right time. Go to the article on SPOP. Many SPOP songs incorporate synthesizers that source their sounds from organic noise like crickets chirping, wind blowing through leaves, or water flowing. These aren't one-to-one replications, but baseline sounds that are used to build different notes, although directly sampled natural sound noises do pop up from time to time. The genre also utilizes instruments built from softwood trees that grow on Saisei. One mainstay, the S guitar, is an all-softwood guitar that creates a deep, clear, and resonant sound. Look up an all-spruce guitar for a great example. Many songs use the chord progressions numbers along with minor keys. There are a lot of subgenres within S-pop, so you will find styles like pop, rock, dance, hip-hop, metal, etc. within the genre. Saisei band The Claw famously covered Moonlight by metal band Clover and kicked off the S-pop craze that dominated UE charts. I'm looking forward to seeing what the just know he was on the ground. Yeah, I'll reach out to Sergeant Tickles and see if they'd be interested in being a guest. It'd be a lot of fun. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the different composers that CIG has on retainer do for adding more music to the game in the theme of S-pop. And how you can listen to that music, whether it's something that you can, because to me it sounds like sort of traditional S-pop would be very cathartic, something that's relaxing to listen to in a long jump from one place to another. And you could probably listen to it on Spectrum radio or whatever. But yeah, and let's see, that is it for the Loremakers Community Questions from March 21st, so not quite a week ago. And really, that is all I have for Lore Equals Gameplay episode 10. This has been a longer episode because we did the Loremakers Community Questions, but now that they're not doing the new lore posts or not doing them as often, I'm going to be incorporating the community questions into my Lore Equals Gameplay episodes, just like I do with the Galactapedia updates, just to help better flesh out the lore and get the information about the lore out to you, out to the community, so that way it's more available, especially from a contextual standpoint. Considering like the regen questions in here. I've read all the the regen article multiple times along with the other contextual documents. And so when questions get asked like this, it adds to the body of knowledge. But it's important when reading them to have that knowledge, to put that answer into context with the rest of that body of knowledge. So that's why I do this stuff. But it is almost 9 o'clock here in Texas. I've had my AC turned off for almost 2 hours because it's so dang loud. And I can only do so much to improve the sound quality with my laptop and my mic right here. And so I need to turn it back on because it's getting awfully warm in here. And I also have to get ready for class tomorrow. But I would just want to say thank you to everyone who's been hanging out with me in chat. Thank you to Victura and for subbing and for gifting all those subs to all those people. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Ghost, for renewing your sub. I really appreciate you guys. Victura, if you're not aware, I know Ghost 1800 is definitely aware because you've been around for a while. But and just for everybody who's watching this later on YouTube, I do all of this for charity, and I'm a small-time streamer, content creator. I don't get to stream very often. I'm trying to build up my YouTube subs to get to 1,000 so I can start getting monetization. But all the money from the subs, the money from the ads, along with, of course, the donations that go directly to StackUp.org. Everything goes directly to StackUp.org. All monetization. I make a good living. I don't need the money. I do this so that way what little money I do make, and hopefully more in the future, goes towards a good cause. And StackUp.org helps connect veterans and military members with games and gaming communities in order to combat PTSD as well as the challenges of being deployed and being away from your family and your support group. So it's a mission that I obviously am very supportive of because I'm a veteran and I'm currently serving away from my family right now on active duty orders. So if you want to help me, if you want to support their mission, you can do so by supporting me and supporting the content that I make with my partners, Nazarus, Atirakel, and Nightcop. And so, yeah, I just want to say I really appreciate you guys. I appreciate you watching. Please, if you're watching this later, please give it a like, share it, subscribe on YouTube, comment in the comments if you have questions, join my Discord. I'm always available. Yeah, I really appreciate you guys. And Victor just gave 5 more subs. Oh my gosh, we just exceeded our goal for subs, and so that is just absolutely awesome. Gifting subs to all those people that just got listed in chat. So thank you so much, Victoria. I really appreciate it. Yeah, we are absolutely crushing the goals this evening. I do need to reach out to stackup.org and see about, because the little goal thing in the bottom in the center isn't representing the direct donations that have been made, as well, although some of those were from previous calendar year, it rolls over. And then I also just I got my second payout from Twitch like a couple weeks ago, and I made that donation with some of my own money for another $100, and that's not represented in there. So I got to get that fixed. But anyways, I got to sign off. I really appreciate you guys. Have a good evening. And I'll keep you posted with what plans are for tomorrow for Pathfinders, or if we're going to have to do that on Tuesday, as well as what plans are going to be for the next episode of Armchair Admirals and Generals. Thanks again, guys. Have a good evening. And 07.